Robert Bekhazi is a member of AMRIS, also known as Australians for Reconciliation in Syria, a community humanitarian organisation. Now, he's a Lebanese-Australian businessman who's travelled frequently to Syrian refugee camps on the Lebanese border, and he joins us tonight from Melbourne. Robert, thank you very much for coming in to speak to the world.
Pleasure.
Tell us a bit about the places that you visited, the refugee camps that border Lebanon. What kind of conditions are people living in there?
We're talking about very large numbers of people, mainly from rural parts of Syria, who have fled the situation there. Either they were coerced to leave or they fled from fear. And they're now in Lebanon, which apparently now hosts close to 1 million Syrian refugees, or about the equivalent of a quarter of the population of the country. And they register with the UN when they get there, and that's the last they hear of any organisation or association. I saw conditions of poverty that I would liken to imagery we saw from the Ethiopian famine a couple of decades ago. Really an appalling situation, and it has to get you thinking. It makes you wonder when the French foreign minister talks about sending arms worth obviously many tens of millions of dollars to further kill Syrians and further worsen the refugee situation. Why aren't they spending even a fraction of this money perhaps helping these people?
OK, well, let's just take apart some of your statements at the moment. First of all, because there are so many sides in this conflict, if you like. You are, I believe you're a Christian?
Yes, I'm a Christian by sectarian affiliation.
And do you have a family connection to Syria?
And I don't have any family in Syria. I do have many friends, but I do have a lot of family in Lebanon, and the distances between Lebanon and Syria can be counted in the tens of kilometres, and the flow-on effects of that conflict are threatening to tear Lebanon apart.
So you were saying that you thought Western governments like France should perhaps be doing more to help some of the refugees, but would you like this conflict to be over quickly? And how do you see a quick end to the conflict happening with Western help?
Who are they going to arm exactly? We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of rebel groups, many tens of thousands, it is estimated now, foreign jihadists on some sort of religious crusade. Who are they helping by uprooting many tens of thousands, if not millions, of Syrians from minority communities and other parts of the community, particularly secular Sunnis and whoever else, that don't want conflict? What they want is a peaceful end to this particular situation. What they want is reform through dialogue rather than through foreign intervention, whether it be at the hands of Islamic jihadists who are making their way from all over the world to fight some holy war, and European governments such as the government of France and England, who have their own geopolitical strategy that comes at the expense of many millions of Syrians.
Well, arguably, if they had a geopolitical strategy, they could have sent in a lot more arms to get things over with quicker.
Well, they sold plenty of arms to the Saudis and the Qataris who flowed them into Syria anyway. You know, what are they really going to add to the mix? So we're talking about an open border between Syria and Turkey, countless amounts of arms. All you have to do is watch the reports from the battle zones and you'll see how well armed the rebels are now, the type of weaponry that they have at their disposal. What are they suggesting that they do? Give them fighter planes now? At the end of the day, what they should do is pull back from the brinkmanship that they're taking Syria and the rest of the region to, and sit down with the Russians and whoever else have a stake in the region and come up with a peaceful solution.
But do you think that scenario that you've just painted about negotiation and people getting together, I mean, particularly the Assad regime, they've shown no signs of wanting to negotiate at this stage?
Well, there are many Syrian opposition groupings who refuse a violent solution or an attempt at a violent solution, and are rather asking foreign countries such as France not to interfere in Syria and allow the Syrians to work the situation out amongst themselves.
Do you fear that the fundamentalists and the Salafists, if they seize power, this is just going to create ongoing upheaval, not just for Syria, but for the entire region?
Look, I read a letter, it was a plea sent by the Patriarch of the Catholic Church of the Levant, who sent this as a general plea to all people of the world, saying, assist us, because these rebel groups are kidnapping our people. They're forcing them to leave their homes and their regions all over Syria. These jihadists, and you see videos of Libyan mercenaries armed by the French in the Libyan conflict barely a year and a half ago, arriving with their AK-47s and their M16s to carry out some sort of jihad in Syria. These people use religion as a pretext to bring about some sort of Sharia law that we're seeing now in parts of Aleppo where women have been forbidden from driving, and other parts of the country where they're setting up religious courts and they're a law unto themselves. Of course, I fear this. I fear the whole region being sucked into this incredible wave of Islamic fundamentalism that's sweeping the region. Of course, I see it when I read the headlines in Benghazi, Libya yesterday, a Coptic church being firebombed and burnt to the ground. Do
you think there's any pulling back at this stage? Is there really any hopeful solution?
Look, the solution will come when the international community, who have obviously their own geopolitical strategy in all of this, their own interests in this, realise that it can't come at the expense of secular society, such as the society that was in Syria or the society that exists in Lebanon. Because at the end of the day, you know, the media, and I was just listening to the BBC report that you just played before I came on air, talks about Assad. What about the many millions and millions of Syrians, whether they be Christians or Alawites or Kurds or secular Sunnis, who feel that their future is definitely at stake? Maybe that's the reason why the government of Syria is still in control of so much land today, why it's still in control of its army, because the destiny of these people is at stake, not just one man called Assad.
Robert Bekhazi, we really appreciate you coming on The World tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.